Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now. Welcome, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to building dynamic Einstein analytics apps for AppExchange. My name is Steve Pepper. I'm a principal software engineer on the analytics team. And this is my colleague, Manny Blumreich, who is going to be delivering some fantastic demos a little later in the session. Before we get started, we do have to mention that this presentation may contain forward-looking statements, and as such, we need to remind you that you should make financial decisions based on features that are available today. So this is what we're going to cover today. We'll give you a high-level view of what the analytics developer experience looks like. We'll go over every kind of asset that the analytics platform offers. And then we'll get into the application template framework. And we'll cover what kind of solutions that provides to you. And then Manny's going to move into showing you how to create an analytics template and then introduce customization into that analytics template as we move on. And finally, we'll cover how to share that analytics template so you can publish your $1 million idea on the AppExchange. And then finally, we'll wrap up by having some question and answer with both Manny and I, as well as the analytics app framework team that's sitting in the back row back there. So what is the analytics developer experience? From the 1,000-foot view, there's three major areas. Platform integration, which has an extensive API that's fully API versioned, as well as backward compatible. It has an extensive sharing model, so you can deliver some secure assets user-based. It has a web SDK, so if you wish to surface your visualizations in an external app, we have an SDK around that, as well as an Apex SDK, which you can code up your own queries to deliver the data to your visualizations. And at the bottom left, we have the standard Salesforce application lifecycle management. All of the analytics platform components are fully metadata driven, so you can migrate your components from one organization to another. And on the bottom right, we have application customization, which is backed by our extensive template framework. We fully support customization, and I'll get into that for the rest of the session today. So let's recap the assets that are on the analytics platform. We'll start with data sets. They are essentially the foundation of the data behind all your analytics assets. They are encapsulated and they're optimized for analytics processing. They can contain both static data, so you can generate your data sets from CSVs, but you can also produce them dynamically based on external data sources, which brings us to data flows. They are essentially the roadmap on how to produce data sets. They're authored by analytics developers, and they're a set of instructions that will extract, transform, and load that data from the external data source, such as Salesforce. Analytics administrators can schedule those on an interval based, so you can time the execution of the data flows in such a way to not impact performance. Moving on to lenses. Lenses are basically a simplistic view into a single data set. If you want to perform some quick queries, you can generate some decisions based on, as you do your data discovery, based on dynamic questions. But then you can move those kind of lenses into something a little bit more dynamic called dashboards. And dashboards are a more holistic view into your data sets, but you can have one or more related data sets that are completely user interface driven, so it's completely interactive, but it also has a substantial set of widgets that allow the user to have an interactive experience and drill into their data. And finally, we have apps. Apps are essentially a collection of all the assets. So they contain all the data sets, they contain all the dashboards, and all the lenses. So you can think of apps as basically a folder of all the collections of those assets. And now we have app templates. They look a lot like apps. They contain the same kind of assets, all the dashboards, lenses, but they're basically a prototype of the same application. They contain tokens, but they also contain a lot of metadata about the template that drive all the rules that replace or do all the customization within the resulting app. So the analytics template framework, the power of customization, what exactly does that mean? Let's say you've built your killer app, you have 5 dashboards in your app, it works great for your organization, you have all the data being extracted from Salesforce, but now you want to sell it, you want to make some money at it. So what does customization mean? You basically put the metadata in the template, you come up with a set of variables that interacts with our wizard and allows the user to pick the customizations to create the app. Sorry. So basically, when you have customers consuming your app, they may have different S objects. They may have different S object fields. They may not like the kind of branding that you do in your dashboards. They may choose a different color. But you can all customize that in your template so that when they create the app based on that template, it fits their needs. So it's completely dynamic. It also has an improved packaging model. We allow deployment of CSVs inside the template, and we also support upgrades. So let's say you produce your template, version 1, and a customer installs that app in their org. We remember the answers to those questions, and when they come through and you develop a new revision of the app, they can upgrade the app, and it's all seamless based on the previous answers. But we take customization one step further. If you don't like the wizard or the wizard doesn't give you the options that you need to give the user experience when creating the app, we allow you to plug in your own Visualforce page. And that interacts with every step within the wizard, as well as a complicated JavaScript SDK that allows you to publish and subscribe to the events within every step of the wizard. Mandy will show you that in a little bit. We also give you the hooks to plug in your own Apex class during the life cycle of the wizard. So if you want to do some introspection on the organization, they can determine if the org is compatible with the template, as well as generate some default values. Now, if this all sounds familiar, the sales and service application are completely built on top of this application, so they leverage every piece of the customization of the templates. So with that, I'll hand the floor over to Mandy to do some demonstrations.
All right, I'm going to do my best not to hide behind the computer here. A little challenged on my height. So first of all, I want to say I'm going to go through a lot really fast, okay? This slide deck is on a chatter session. It's got code samples in it, so just take in what I'm doing. Don't worry about, the fact that I'm going fast. You can go back and reference anything I've talked about. I have 2 templates I'm going to sort of walk you through. Available on a GitHub that everybody can get to. Again, that'll be on the chatter session, so you can go out and grab those and play with them. These are going to be really good example templates for you to use as you start learning. They start simple and they get complex really fast, all right? And we do have, developers around this stuff, but I want to show you as much as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just jump right in to our demo org. I've created a really simple application here. It's got 2 dashboards in it. Dashboard has a text box and a container with color. It already, and I went ahead and I created a template from this. So once it was done, I went and it's a REST call wave templates post with the folder ID, and it created a template for me. And the very simplest version of the template is ready to go without me touching anything. I don't have to do any further development. As soon as I templatize it, it's tokenized all the IDs, so I can throw these dashboards on another org. It creates new instances of them with IDs. They know everything they need to know. So what I'm going to all right, this goes really fast because it's just 2 dashboards. I don't have any data flows or data being under here, but you can see now I have another folder. It has 2 dashboards in it, and they look exactly the same. Right? This is also just a really nice, simple way to copy apps around so that you can play with them without hurting, the master that you've made. But that doesn't buy us a lot, right? I mean, that's not what the power is, just copying things from here to there. I want to be able to have the customer say, you know what, I don't want it to say demo text, and I want it to have different colors and stuff like that. So I'm going to steps out. So I'm using Eclipse IDE. You can use whatever IDE you want. It's got the force.com plugin. So I can go ahead and use the metadata deploy and retrieve to push back and forth to my server. So this is sort of the fastest way to do things, and obviously the standard Salesforce thing. So the first thing, this is just our entry point template.info JSON entry point into the metadata of the template. So you can see it's an app type template. So it's got a name, it's got a namespace, it's got a dev name, and there's a lot of other stuff in here, UIs, variables. You can see where it's talking about the dashboards. So all this stuff is declared. The very first thing I'm going to do is I want to add some UI so that my customer can make some choices. So I have files ready to go so that we can move fast. We talked about using variables. We've defined this language that allows you to say, I want a text type variable where they can say, this is the text I want. So we have string type, I've got a label and a description. This will all pop up in the UI as soon as it's there. And then our UI is defined. I'm going to have one page with a title. And you can see right now I'm just going to do the one variable. Okay? So that you can see step by step how this is going to go. So I've got everything saved. I'm going to go ahead and push this up to the server. This is all live, so fingers crossed that we have good network. There we go. So we're not going to synchronize because that takes too long, but we're just going to push it up. So I'm pushing this right up to the server. As soon as it goes, I can hop back to my browser. I'm going to go out here, refresh, so we pick up that new template. Creating the app again. I'm just going to go down. These are choices you can see are other templates that are in here, sales and service, whatever you have licensing for. And automatically, you can see it's already starting to know that I have variables in there. We have the knowledge of answers and pre-making applications, so it knows I already made one. That one didn't have any answers, and we're just going to go to a brand new one. And look at that. Now I've got UI, and it's using all of that descriptive text from the metadata. I've got my page title. I've got a text widget. So I'm going to do a hello world, because that's our favorite kind of demo. And it says looks good, and this is going to be our hello world demo. And again, I'm going to create it. So we're going to get another new folder, all right? And we're going to create. And hey, we've got two dashboards again, but this time when I open it, it didn't work because I left something out. Hold on. Demo text. Maybe, did I have an error, Steve? Okay, so this is a good example of what we want to do to troubleshoot it. So we're going to go back here. Nope. And, oh, thank you, Steve.
So what happened is she needs to tokenize the dashboard.
Yep.
This is one way to do the substitution.
Yes.
In the app.
So thank you to Steve. So I still had it hard-coded. So it doesn't matter if I put variables in. It doesn't know where to use them. But this is actually the dashboard JSON right here. And so I want to say, instead of having hard-coded demo text, I want it to use this variable. And this is a language we came up with, an expression language. We know how to read it at runtime. So again, we'll push it up. It's going to go a little faster this time, which is great. All right. Now the magic. Okay. But we do have a debugger. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on, too, so we have it ready to go. And it listens to wave events under debug. If you look at your log levels, it's still named wave, but it's the analytics events. Okay, so we'll have that on. And do a quick refresh to make sure I have the right templates. Okay. Hello world again. There we go. Yay. All right, so now I have hello world in there, and you could see we actually logged everything that was going on. So this is a really good way to debug. This gets more and more complex, and you're messing with the JSON more and more, and having this be able to run underneath, and so you can double check what you're doing. I also mentioned we want to do colors and we want to do some conditionals. But the other thing I want to say, let's say, you know, Steve talked about upgrading. So I've made one version of this dashboard and I want to add another widget to it. So I add another widget to it inside the analytics UI, and I can do a put and it'll add that dashboard JSON to my template. But what's it going to do? It's going to overwrite those variables tokens I put in there, because the dashboard in the analytics UI has no idea what it is to be a template. So now as a template developer, I've got to go back in and tokenize everything again. What if I have, you know, 30 different things tokenized? And this is something that the sales analytics team started hitting early on when they were doing this, is how do we continue to be iterative without just being bogged down? So what we did is we made a concept of runtime rules where we separate the logic of the template from the analytics assets. So I'm going to go ahead and go put this back. I don't want the variable in here. Okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a rule right here. Okay? Again, very JSON heavy. And you can see here I'm saying in the path, walking right up to that, you know, parameters.txt where I literally just commented out that code, we want to replace that value with whatever the variable is that the customer put in. And then I also decided I wanted to be able to let them set some colors. So I predefined, I have some variables that let you choose the color, and I predefined in here, you know, hexadecimals that are background color. Obviously, this becomes really heavy if we want multiple colors. I'm going to show you that in another demo where we can make that easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put these variables back in so that you can see how these work. So this is going to be an example of a string enum, which is, allows us to pick things, and also a conditional. So you notice I keep showing you one dashboard and not the other. So let's say our customer doesn't even maybe want that second dashboard. So I can go back into template info, and in the definition of the dashboard, I can say if this condition evaluates to true, lay down the dashboard asset. If it evaluates to false, we don't want it. Don't even build it. Don't even put it down. So you start having control over what assets get put down for customers at any given time. And again, sales analytics and service analytics made huge use of this based on what customers want. Some want something very simple. Some want the whole shebang. We don't want to give them the whole shebang every time unless they want it. So, okay, I've got everything. Oh, I need to put my rule file back in. So it knows to run the rules when it goes from template to app. We also can run rules when you go app to template, but that's rarer. And we actually do a lot under the hood for you guys. So we're going to push this up to the server again. Okay. We're going to go back. And this time you're going to see more in my UI. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that it remembers the answer. So I'm going to say, hey, my existing app, demo 2, so it remembered that I said hello world, right? So now we're doing memory. So if that's another thing, is users come in and out and they make different variations to see if they're getting it right. They don't want to be like, what did I put in there again? So we've done that where you can remember what you want. I'm just going to type color. Now you see I have a selector here. We also give you the ability in these drop-downs to say this is what the default was, it's what you previously used, it's what I previously used because it was under the hood. And I like purple better. I'm so much more into purple than that teal. And I do not want to create a second dashboard, so I'm not going to check it. So it's going to evaluate to false. So we will not get that second dashboard. Okay. One dashboard, it is done. And now it's purple. Right? And as you can see, I mean, obviously I'm very comfortable with this code. I'm out of it all the time, but you can see how we're iterating in and out to see what kind of experience. First you iterate over the app, and then you iterate over what does it look like to make this custom for my customer. So I'm just going to do a quick recap here. So this is where I was telling you we've got the code in the slides. So again, this is a simple, like we create the variables. So we created our string type variable. We added it to our wizard UI on a page, and we added a variable to the dashboard. And this is what we get out of that. We get some custom UI, and at the end, we get a custom dashboard. Okay? And then we talked about we need to be able to, I don't want to be touching that dashboard code. I don't want to touch data flow code. None of that. I want to be able to stay away from that, so we abstracted things out into the rules. So this is an example of the rule replacement, and then also a conditional inside our template info, so that dashboard is laid down depending on what the user wants. So that's giving you kind of a quick overview. That's real quick. We get text, we get color, but really what's important here with analytics is our data, right? I want to see how do we mess around with the S objects? How do we start getting more powerful? So I'm gonna walk you through a demo that's slightly more powerful. And again, sorry that I got to keep trucking here so that we get through everything. So I created another app that's a data demo. This one has 2 data sets. I've loaded all of my account information, all of my opportunity information. I created, dashboards. I'm not, super visually pretty. It's a very simple. This is a details table. So standard out of the box, it comes with all of these values. But customers don't necessarily want to see everything. Maybe they don't care about the opportunity type. Maybe they don't, want to see the fiscal year, stuff that's repeated. They don't want to see that. And so we can start customizing what's in here, which data sets are created, which dashboards are created. So I'm going to go ahead, before I show you the code, and walk you through the wizard, because it'll help when you look at the code if you've seen what the wizard looks like. So first thing here is I have 2 conditionals. Okay, and I'm going to show you how our UI actually starts interacting with the customer. So here you can see how it says step 1 of 5. So if I say I only want the opportunity object and I don't want the account object, it's actually going to skip over the whole page I had designed for the account object questions, and it's going to go right to my opportunity ones. So it's only asking our users what's important to them based on answers they've already had. I'm going to go back and say, wait, no, I do want the account. And now here you can see I'm on page 2 of 5. And I'm going to go ahead, watch this. We've added the ability to have conditionals right inside the page. So as soon as I said I want details, it says, oh, what fields do you want? Right? So that's visibility. So we're hiding and making it visible based on choices. So in here, I can just add a couple. And this is our Multiselect field, which is super powerful because you don't have to give one, like a million different little text selections. You start getting the ability to do them all in one place. We can also loop over these values, and I'll show you that. We've added array functionality. So I'm going to go ahead and go into opportunity. And we're going to build, oops. It also does a little bit of recognition here, which is nice. This looks a little different. This doesn't look like our standard UI. This is a Visualforce page under the hood. This one's really simple. All it's doing is its own kind of multi-select. You can see it looks really different. And then and that gets powerful, so you can start interacting with the variables and making choices and doing your own layout. You notice one thing that's gone is that step 1 of 5. You can start having your own kind of progress bars. You can build this however you want. It's housed inside an iframe. It's built by Visualforce and Apex, so it's past all our security stuff. The other thing that's really cool is, remember I had to start thinking about coding all those colors in myself. Our PM found a really neat widget. It's a color picker widget. So he built this whole HTML page underneath the hood, and it's using our SDK. And it's just a simple color picker. And so that's going to be the color underneath one of the dashboards I'm going to create. So we're going to go ahead and run this demo. This one's going to take a little longer because it's running a data flow. All right, so while this runs, I'm going to show you a little bit of the code here. Okay. So this one you start to see my template info is getting bigger. Obviously, I have more dashboards, and I have a condition on each of those dashboards where if I chose, all those check boxes, if I wasn't going to check one, it's not going to build the dashboard. I also have the data set files, which are conditional. If I said I didn't want to use opportunity, it's not going to do opportunity. Here's the UI, and you can see we're starting to get more. This is the UI for that field that came and went, the one that I could hide and then bring back. And again, it's driven off a conditional, so it says if this variable right here is true, it's visible. If it's false, it's hidden. And we've even got some simple ternary logic built in there. This is the Visualforce page. We still feed it in the variables so it can work with it through our SDK, but it's using this color test, which I have right here. And again, this is all, if you've got someone who's incredible at UI development, you can get that in. But the important thing here is our SDK, which is going to load up those client events so that you can use them, know where you are on the page, what variables you have, what you have to work with. So let's go back and look at it real quick. Okay, it's finished. And this is the dashboard I'm actually most interested in showing you. So that's the one that was created by that Visualforce page with the color picker. Okay? And another interesting thing here is the rules. Whoops, wrong one. Okay. So this is where we start getting even more power. So this is where those multi-select arrays are coming in. And you can see we've got we're concatenating. We're able to use concatenate to the current values, everything that's been passed in. So for each thing, and then you can see I'm putting it right here in the workflow definition. All right? Digging through these JSON paths takes some practice. Our PM has developed an internal tool that he's willing to share. It's pretty cool. It's an Apex page that lets you dig through the JSON paths pretty quick.
It's very similar to XPath. So if you're familiar with XPath and XML,
yeah.
Basically it drills down into the same structure of the JSON, just like you would in XPath. So.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's interesting here is you see I'm starting, rules are awesome, but they start getting really repetitive. Right? So this is just going through the workflow node and deleting nodes, right? Like the workflow, and I don't want to use opportunities, so I got to delete 2 nodes. I don't want to use accounts, so I want to delete 2 nodes. And I'm repeating a lot of logic. So when we added the rules in, it was a great win. Woo! And then all of a sudden, Service Analytics has a rules file that's 25,000 lines long. And then dashboard JSON changes. And all of their rules have to be adjusted, every single JSON path. And it's been repeated. And that's not workable, right? So we come up with the idea of macros where we take common code, abstract it out so it's reusable. So I have a couple versions here. And we'll scroll down. This knows how to delete the node for a workflow. And so then I can say, where did it go? And I just call that, and I pass in the node I want. So now I can start repeating code. And we built recursion into that. So it gets really powerful really fast. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do one more run here. We're just going to switch out the rules file so you can see it working. Right. I am not a fan of this yellow. As a customer, not a fan. But look at this. It's a new version available. So I can go in, and this is our upgrade path that Steve was talking about. And that's fine. I'm going to leave all this. It's remembering my answers. Remembers, you know what? Let's change the chart type while we're in here. I'm going to do a combo chart. I don't want that yellow. So I'm going to go to blue. It's going to give us a little warning about, if you do the upgrade, you're going to overwrite any customizations the customer made, right? We made customizations in the template, customers touching the dashboards. It can be overwritten. The idea is to write a template that does all the customization for the customer so they don't ever really have to touch the dashboards themselves. But they will, so we give them a lot of warnings. So it tells them what's changed. So, I've got 2 dashboards. Oh, that's the new app, sorry. I don't want to create new, I want to upgrade. And again, it's going to make me say it's okay to overwrite it, and we'll upgrade the app. And so what this is doing is taking any changes that have gone through. If we make changes to those data questions, it'll run the data flow again. I didn't make any changes to the data, so there shouldn't be any data flow. And now it's blue, and it's a different chart. So the other thing about that reset upgrade path, is customers can sort of mess around with, they can answer the questions, A, B, and C, and they say, that's not really what I want, and then they can go back in and they can say, okay, I'm going to answer this, X, Y, and Z, and they get a different result. It allows them to get what they want out of the customized piece of your app. So again, just a quick review here. So here we showed you the multi-select S-object field and the variables, showed you looping and the rules, how we start getting a lot of power there. We have a lot of methods in there that work with arrays. It's pretty neat stuff. Again, what that looks like, so that's the multi-select in the UI, what it looks like as it loops through and makes the details table. When you dig into the template, you can see where all of that's happening. I don't have time to go through every single cool thing in here. And then we talked about the rules just starting to get bigger and bigger. The more we do it, the more repeated code we get. So again, we start adding macros in there. So that top one is just a simple macro. Then we get a recursive macro here. So we can actually loop through the values that are given in and pass that in here. And there's some amazing stuff that can be done with that once you get comfortable with it. Oops, I actually want to stay in here, sorry. And the Visualforce page in the wizard. So again, that's as simple as declaring the Visualforce page in your UI JSON. What we see in the wizard, obviously you've got to be comfortable enough to create a whole Visualforce page. So now you've got your template where you want it. You've tested it. It's exactly what you want to customize. Now you're ready to share it on the AppExchange. So I'm going to give it back to Steve so he can talk to you a little bit about how to do that.
Great job, Mandy. Thank you very much. Yes, so now you have this killer app available, and you want to sell it through the templates. How do I do that? Well, we do have a self-contained component type that for packaging, and I'll show you how that works. But we do, so you want to basically add one component. You'll go through the create packages like you would through a standard Salesforce package. And we also are looking to support Salesforce DX in the future. Hopefully that's a seamless transition. And so basically, let me show you how you add that template to a package. Go to the setup menu and create packages. Sorry. My clicking is off, sorry. So you see the sample package, you'll see the sample TDX demo in there, and that's of type Wade template. But also there's an Apex class attached to it. So any kind of dependency that you establish on the template, whether it's a Visualforce page, an Apex class, they're automatically spidered into the package as you add. So now you push your template up to the AppExchange and you're ready to sell it. So let's recap what we've covered today. We've given you a high-level overview of what Analytics Platform gives you, as well as the kind of assets that are in the Analytics Platform. We've covered what the Analytics Template Framework gives you and how you can create one from scratch, as well as introduce customization to it. So let's go ahead and open up the floor to some questions and answers. So feel free.
Yeah, and our whole team is here, plus our PM. So just go ahead and Carrie will bring you the mic if you have any questions.
Yeah, raise your hands, guys.
Oh, come on. Wow, we did that good of a job, huh?
No questions? Yes.
Okay, hold on.
So you mentioned the iterative JSON components, right? How many levels can we go? Can we go multiple levels, like 2 or 3 levels deep?
The recursive macros?
Yeah.
10 levels. We put a, yep.
Awesome, thank you.
We do have a limit around that, yep.
Good question. Good question.
Yes?
I think I know the answer already, but in terms of
Yeah, go.
In terms of managed packages, quite often you can protect your company's IP. You can't see the Apex class and so on. I assume at the moment it's still the dashboard assets and data flow assets will be visible, and at a future date we'll be able to sort of manage them and protect them.
So dashboard source is not protectable. They're visible by the client. So we're at the mercy of what's available to the API. We are safe harbor here. We are moving some of those components to the back end so that you can protect some of those IP rights. But we're at the mercy of the API.
Yeah. The interesting, so you can do all the standard sharing on these apps. So once the customer builds the app, if they don't have rights to run the data flow, they can't see the data flow. They can't get the JSON for that. The dashboard, as far as I know, as soon as you can view it, you can do that tricky Command E thing with it. But a lot of the standard users aren't going to know that they can do that. But yes, yeah, that.
Good question.
There's a clear trend with Lightning Page. There's a trend with the Lightning Page Builder with Process Builder toward more visual, less code building. Is that in the works for this?
Actually, Skip would be a
yes.
good one to answer that. Skip, you want to? This is our PM for our team.
So the answer is yes, we plan to have some more visual tools, but we look at this now as something that's going to be used mainly by the more advanced customers and partners. And it's not really a difficult thing once you see the moving pieces. So a visual tool is not going to add a lot of value. We'd rather get the framework in really great shape and make sure you've got a great runtime and a lot of features there as opposed to just a tool. As we mentioned, though, we have some visual tools to help you create the templates. I can make that available to you. It's actually just a Visualforce page. It uses the REST API to let you go in and say, create a template by just clicking a button. And then for every one of the attributes, you can actually go in and it basically lines them out and gives you a button to say, generate the variable, the page, and the rule. So you at least have a template for a template, if you will, and you can fill in the blanks there. So we do kind of help you a little bit. And those may become the basis for some productized tools, but we don't have any plans for that in the next release.
Yeah, it's actually loaded in this org. So if you come by our demo booth, we can show you that tool.
I'm new, so apologies if this is a dumb question, but
No dumb.
is it possible to embed or surface the Visualforce elements or app in a Lightning component if you're making like a hybrid?
Yes. So once the app is built, and you see this a lot with Sales Wave and Sales Analytics and Service Analytics, they want to put the dashboards right on the accounts page or right in the service console. So absolutely, you can embed it. There's Lightning components for it. There's going to be a talk tomorrow at 9 a.m. Out in the, which theater? What? Canyon Theater, where they're going to talk about, so you're going to see what that looks like, and then they've built an SDK that allows the analytics dashboards and the assets to talk to the Lightning components that are also embedded. Because before that, it had just been like, oh, I got a dashboard, and and I'm clicking on the dashboard, but nothing's happening down here. And now they talk back and forth, and the filter of the dashboard changes, and it's pretty amazing stuff. So I would, if you're really interested in that, I'd recommend that 9 a.m. session. And then we're also demoing it at that analytics booth. We're mostly focused on the SDK stuff, but we can talk about templates there too.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. That was a great question.
In your demo, you were using an IDE. Is that all available in Developer Console? Could access all of that same code?
I don't know.
When you say that, like the JSON, can you edit that through the developer console or
Yeah.
the Apex classes? The JSON itself is not available in the developer console. But everything you saw that Mandy deployed is all deployed using the metadata API. So you can extract using Workbench and the typical tools you'd use in Force.com.
But yeah, those Apex classes, the
Yeah.
Visualforce, that can definitely be
Yeah.
edited in your developer console.
Yeah.
I've seen you using that a color picker, which is maybe a third-party GS plugin or something. So when you include the third-party GS libraries, like any library that you want to enhance, maybe the interactivity of the UI of the dashboard, when you deploy that everything goes with it as a dependency or
As a static resource,
as a
I
static
believe
resource?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Skip, you know the answer to that? Yeah, bottom line is you reference it using the Apex resource tag. I think it all gets statically or brought in through static resources. That also includes like CSSs and stuff like that.
Okay, and I think the question was already asked that those template, they're hybrid, right? They can run on Lightning and in the classic environment?
Yes, yeah. And my apologies that the org was in Classic View instead of Lightning View, but yes.
Okay.
Yes, all of this works. The only thing, and it's all the applications you make are supported on mobile. You don't build templates in a mobile environment, so there's a lot of work there, right? So that, but sales analytics, all that template development, is done in a standard environment, but they have mobile layouts for it. So once the app is created, sales analytics can be, and service analytics can be accessed on mobile devices. And that's really where the important mobile piece is. But yes, and Lightning is definitely the way everything's moving.
It's just, I think there's a challenge of maybe those templates to be responsive and to be tested on different screens and different environment, different devices, even different resolutions. So when you define a template, like for instance, the size of maybe the outside frame of it or how responsive it is to fit like the whole screen and everything else. So is there...
Do you mean the wizard interface? Is that what you mean? Or?
Yeah.
Or you're talking about the wizard that gets driven by the variables and you answer all those questions, or are you talking about the end result?
No, the end results. The
end results are standard dashboard objects, and within dashboards, if you're familiar with them, they have a layout section, and the different layout sections, you have like a mobile layout section and you have a regular section that you put your steps in there. So that's how it knows how to render on an iPhone or on a regular desktop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good? Yep. We have to be done, but we'll come down and we can, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.